During these unprecedented times of graphics card shortages, the main question that I get asked from you guys is what is the best or easiest way to buy a GPU right now? And ever since the launch of the RTX 3080 back on September 17th, 2020, it's obvious that this has been a real issue for people, with cards marked up so heavily on the used market and perpetually out of stock from official retailers. So today, I want to share my experience of purchasing a total of 19 different GPUs through 5 different methods in the past 16 months, as well as rank each of those methods in terms of price versus ease of obtaining the graphics card. Then at the end of this video, I'm also going to explain which methods for getting a GPU right now are best for which types of people. So to find out the best way to buy a GPU right now, as well as tips and tricks for each method to increase your success rate, let's get into this. So the first thing that I want to mention to help you guys out is that I'm going to leave a pinned comment in the comment section below for you guys. This will have any updated tips and tricks for these methods so that you can find up-to-date information down there, no matter when you view this video. Otherwise, yes, I am British, but I do live in the US. So this is going to be focused on the US market and US retailers, but many of the tips and tricks in this video will contain useful information for those of you that live outside the US too. But bear in mind that these are my opinions ranked, covering how each of the methods work, tips and tricks to optimize your success, and how convenient it was versus how expensive the card was. And you may rank them differently based on your experiences, your opinions, and other factors. Of course, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love for you to share your experiences too in the comment section so that we can be a community and help one another out. All I've ever really asked from you guys is to be civil down there. And lastly, there are other ways of obtaining a GPU right now, ways that I won't have ranked here in this video, as I simply don't have enough experience with them currently. But I will touch upon them at the end of this video for you to do some additional research on if you want to. So my 5 different ways of buying a GPU ranked from worst to last. Let's find out which is the best way for you to get a graphics card right now. So in last place, we have eBay and other secondhand marketplaces local to your area, not because of availability. They actually have the best availability, with almost every version of every GPU available to buy right now, which is fantastic. But the thing that actually puts this at the bottom of the list for me is the insane price markup over MSRP. Let me show you. Something like the RTX 3080 Founders Edition is currently and regularly being sold for over 2.5 to 3 times its MSRP, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's also a worst case scenario given the fact that it's the cheapest RTX 3080 and also is a guaranteed non-light hash rate card, making it a much more attractive purchase for crypto miners. But even something like the Radeon 6600 XT, a card that isn't particularly a good choice for miners, yet consistently sells for about 1.5 to 2 times its MSRP. And the thing that solidifies this method at the bottom of the list for me is that I know manufacturers are seeing this too, and current card sales on these platforms will likely impact future card pricing, but people are still, unfortunately, buying them for these prices. Nevertheless, I told you that I'd give you my tips and tricks for each method, and this is no exception. But the challenge here isn't actually availability when it comes to these marketplaces. The challenge is actually trust. Are you going to be scammed? Because the only thing worse than paying $2,100 for a $700 GPU is paying $2,100 for a brick. So the things that you should consider doing when buying on these platforms are, number 1, make sure that you look at the seller's rating. Having a high rating is a good indication of trust, but at least for eBay, anyone can achieve a high rating without selling a single thing, as a rating system combines both purchases and sales. So make sure that you check out the seller's actual sales feedback by clicking into their rating and having a read. Also, having a thorough description entered by the user is a good sign too. Descriptions auto-filled by eBay only have the title of the listing and the shipping method, but make sure that you read and understand everything about the listing. You may be sold a picture or an empty box if you're not careful. So then lastly, and most importantly, when you receive the item, do not open it right away. If you're worried about being scammed, take pictures of the box, then set up your phone camera somewhere where the entire box will be visible while recording a video. In your video, you should include you opening the box and physically inspecting the card without it ever leaving the frame of the video. Also show serial numbers in the video too if you can. Because if you are sent a brick, you're going to be extremely happy that you spent about 5 minutes on a video. In 4th place, we have in-store drops, and this does depend on how the retailer has the drop set up, but I can talk about my personal experiences at Micro Center Yonkers and Best Buy Waterford. In-store drops have made it to the second to last spot because although you do have a high probability of getting a card if you play your cards right, and the card won't be marked up anywhere near as severely compared to the used market, but you also need to be available to travel and be available for such a large portion of time it becomes mostly unfeasible for a lot of people. For my Micro Center drops experience, you can check out this video in the cards in the video description, Production, where I bought 3 RTX GPUs in 4 days through their QR code raffle sign-up system, and could have gotten a graphics card every single time I visited. And when it comes to Best Buy, you can check out these 2 videos down below. Best Buy in-store drops do also include Founders Edition's GPUs, which is a huge positive in terms of price, but because it's been a first-come, first-served system, you'll likely be waiting for significantly longer compared to a QR code raffle sign-up solution. We are talking overnight at minimum. And because the line is not controlled by Best Buy or monitored in any sort of way, you may have to deal with people trying to cut or potentially even fights breaking out. But please, 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 I ask, if you plan on going to one of these in-store drops, be respectful of one another and you'll have an amazing time. It's a diverse group of people with a common interest. That's an amazing place to meet some great people, and it only goes badly when bad actors try to take advantage or screw people over. The best advice that I can give you for in-store QR code raffle drops is call ahead to confirm. Don't be late, and allocate enough time for you to be there. Also, double check their policies, as they may have a 1 card per month limit, but at least with Micro Center Yonkers, you can keep entering within that month and swap out a previously purchased GPU for a new one. Then for first come, first served drops, especially the Best Buy ones, be sure that the drop is happening on the day and the store that you plan to go to. The announcements channel and the Fix-It Discord has always been very accurate for me, alerting me of drops far sooner than any other source. Best Buy will also have a page on their website to confirm this, but they typically go live with that the afternoon before the drop, which may be too late if you need to travel and you're after a specific card. Otherwise, don't be underprepared. Pack appropriately for the weather, take food, take water, a good chair, a sleeping bag, some sort of entertainment, and if you want to make friends in the evening, bourbon is always my first choice. Take pictures of the line constantly, especially who's in front of you, and if you see someone who snuck into place, evidence of this can only help. Again, and I can't stress this enough, be respectful of one another, their time, and the line. It's typically fine for you to go off for a little while if you need to, but let people know around you. If no one can vouch for you when you return, you are no longer part of that line. And if you're going to try and cut several hundred people that have respectfully been there for the best part of 24 hours, you do not deserve to be there. That level of disrespect is immeasurable, and I hope karma slaps you in the face with a pickup truck. Before we continue, if you're like me, then I think you're really going to like today's video sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an amazing online resource with thousands of inspiring classes and members across 150 countries. It's a place to develop a passion you've been wanting to try or get inspired to be better at what you do best. The first one that I checked out was naturally YouTube Success, Script Shoot and Edit with MKBHD to help me make better content for you guys. And maybe you'll find it as useful as I am. But with classes from music production, web development, film and video, even business analytics, Skillshare can help you make 2022 a year of new learning and growth. So if self-development is something you've been wanting to focus on, the first 1,000 people to follow the links in the video description are even going to be fortunate enough to get a free month to try it out, which can be used to jumpstart your next chapter and get on your path to success, however you define it. In third place, we have the Newegg Shuffle. And although it's really not a great system and how much over the GPU's MSRP you pay is very much dependent on the bundled item, however, it does give everyone equal opportunity to get a GPU regardless of where in the US they live or how much time that they have. Well, kinda. I'll go through my tips and tricks in a bit because I may have found a pattern, but all you need to do is select what products you're willing to buy within the allocated hours, typically between 11 and 1 Eastern time. Then if you are chosen, you're notified that you won the ability to purchase a product or bundle you chose, which will already be in your cart. But as somebody who's won the shuffle 4 times now, I think I can help you maximize your chances with a few tips and tricks. If possible, expand what you're willing to purchase and think of it as a game of probability. If there's a cheaper version of a card without a bundled item, it's fair to assume that more people will select that, decreasing your likelihood of winning it. Following on from that, you can click View Details on any item within the shuffle, which will tell you what the current list price is for that item on Newegg. So if you're choosing bundles, it's worth figuring out how much money that you're spending on each item, and if you can make that money back by selling the items that you don't want. But always do a quick check to see what eBay prices are like too, as they could be drastically lower, given the fact that Newegg obviously aren't bundling high demand items with these GPUs. But potentially the best advice I can give is every time that I've won the shuffle, I've bought an expensive item on Newegg less than a week prior, which is incredibly suspicious. Bear in mind that I miss a shuffle far more often than not, and average roughly around 1 entry a week with about 3 to 5 selections for each entry. So obviously I'm in no way affiliated with Newegg, but if you've been eyeing something on the expensive side and it's the same price on Newegg, it might be worth getting it from there to see if it has any impact on your ability to win the shuffle, as it's been incredibly consistent for me. Suspiciously consistent. For those of you wondering, I bought an O11 Dynamic Mini, 32 gigs of DDR4 memory, a laptop, and a 1 terabyte Gen 4 SSD between winning the shuffles. In second place, we have pre-built gaming PCs, which if you're after a card quickly and willing to put in some extra effort, might legitimately be the best way to get a GPU fast. And I'll go through my tips and tricks in a bit from buying 3 full computers for their GPUs. Even though this method has one of the highest upfront costs, it claims the second spot in the rankings due to potentially making a lot of that money back, and the fact that there are so many pre-built options online with immediate availability from Best Buy, Newegg and Amazon, with my favorites linked in the video description for you. But you can also go more custom, picking each individual component but with longer wait times from bespoke builders like iBuyPower and CyberPower. The only consideration to this method then becomes how much more you're actually spending over the GPU's MSRP when all is said and done, which is where you might need to put in a little extra effort, as well as my tips and tricks to minimize any additional cost to you. First and foremost, do your research. Many of the listings on Best Buy, Newegg and Amazon won't list specific components for things like memory, power supply, motherboard, even the GPU, as they're subject to change based on stock. But the reviews of the item will give you a good indication of what's likely to be shipped in the PC. And fully custom options from boutiques where you can choose each specific component are also available. Following on from that, it's likely a good idea to stay away from manufacturers like Dell and HP, as they often design or use components that are going to be largely incompatible with the typical standards of custom builds. Things like unique cooler mounting, custom motherboard form factors, bespoke wiring for power supplies and other components. These are all things that are going to make it very hard to reuse or resell those components. Conversely, a custom build, especially direct from a boutique retailer, will likely use completely standard components from brands that you know and love, making resale very, very simple. You may also want to consider speccing other upgrades to Steel for your current system if the price makes sense. Now, those 2 tips are going to be crucial for everyone, but then we need to talk about what makes sense for you to do next. What are you planning on doing with the rest of the components? Because you basically have 3 options. If you want to take the card or anything else out of the pre-built to put into your own system, you can do one of 2 things. Number 1, sell everything that you don't want as a semi-complete system. This is likely going to be the quickest way for you to recover some of the extra money that you've spent, but people are going to want a deal on what they consider to be an incomplete bundle. But if you're wanting to maximize the return on the rest of the components, this is where option number 2 comes in. And you need to be spending a lot more time comparing the specs of the pre-built that you plan to buy against the current use price of each individual component. Then of course, sell each component separately. This is exactly what I did in the video where I got an RTX 3080 and a 5950X for about $125 each with tax over their retail price. So if you want more information speccing out the PC, the process, and selling the items, check out that video after this. Otherwise, the third option to consider is potentially keeping the pre-built computer in its entirety and selling your components. You might be in a position where this makes a lot of sense, especially with current GPU prices being so high on the used market during this time. So before we try to match you with one of these methods based on a few simple factors, we have first place, which is Best Buy's online store. And honestly, I can already hear the anger over this decision. But the fact of the matter is, although you pretty much have to be on your computer during business hours every weekday, it actually has very little impact to your time if you use a good stock tracker, which I will get into in a bit. Additionally, you don't have to travel anywhere, and I've personally been able to purchase 5 GPUs using this method, with 3 of them being Founders Editions cards. So it basically wins out by having middle-of-the-road convenience, as there's drops most weeks but no guarantee of a GPU, but it really makes up for it with potentially significantly better prices, given the fact that they're the only D2C components retailer in the US allowed to stock Founders Editions cards. That alone could easily be a savings of like $500 for anything 3080 class or above. Best Buy did recently update their queue-based purchasing system, but essentially, when the product that you want is in stock, you can click to enter a queue. Once your queue time or position is complete, you are then required to verify your account. Once you do that, the item will then be held in your cart for a very limited time, ready for you to make a speedy purchase. And although I got my cards before they updated to a slightly newer queue system now, I've been working with people that have won the new system several times. So my tips and tricks for getting a GPU through Best Buy's online store are first and foremost, make sure that you have your payment info already in the system. That is the first step that you should do. Otherwise, have the product page of the card that you want to purchase, as well as a stock tracking live stream and Discord always running on your PC. I use the Fixit ones, which I will have linked below. And as soon as you hear a ping for any Best Buy card, continuously refresh that product page immediately until it's in stock. even if it's a different product. This is literally go time. Seconds might as well be hours. Many other tips and tricks that you've seen or that I would give you are likely outdated now, given that Best Buy have updated their system. Stuff like many cards on many different tabs and windows, battery refresh extensions, remaining logged in, stuff like that. But speaking to people who are known for developing these strategies, those old tips and tricks have actually been working against me recently, putting me in a refresh loop when trying to verify my account. So I'm going to pin a comment below with any edits that I have, as I haven't been able to confirm the updated ones yet, so take them for what you will. But the updated information that I do have is number 1, use a NerdSpeak Chrome extension. This gives you more information about your queue position and allows you to potentially place higher and increase your chance of being chosen while there's still stock. But to specifically avoid the verify account loop, it's apparently best to do 3 things. Only have one Best Buy tab open per browser. So if you want a chance of winning multiple cards, Edge, Firefox and Chrome will give you 3, and there's many more browsers than just them. Otherwise, be logged out at time of entering the queue, which does sound counterintuitive, but apparently does help with bugs. And lastly, change your password. Apparently doing these things will help with account verification looping, and it seems most of them are ways to circumvent bugs instead of the intended implementation. So well done, Best Buy. But this list is more general advice for everyone. So let's figure out if you can maximize your chances of getting a GPU using one of these methods based on a few factors. So each of the methods that we spoke about mainly have pros and cons when it comes to availability and pricing, and these can be categorized mostly by employment type and time for you to figure out which one is best for you. Let me show you. If you're a high earner and the difference between $1,100 and $1,500 is not as significant as the wait time for you to be able to join your friends playing games, for example, I envy you, but despite how I feel about it, eBay might actually make the most sense for you, as you're paying a premium, but you are getting the card you want as quickly as possible with very little time investment. On the other hand, if you have money saved up and you don't mind putting in a bit of work to guarantee getting a card soon without paying as much as the scalper market, pre-builts are an excellent option if you know what you're getting and can do a rough cost calculation before you buy. You can get the card in as little as a few days and most of your money back extremely quickly if you optimize like I did in this video. For those of you that work from home but are happy to wait for a card from a retailer, there's no reason why you shouldn't be entering the shuffle and have a stock tracker live stream open while you work. Follow my tips and tricks for the Newegg Shuffle and Best Buy to maximize your chances, and hopefully you'll get that card soon. However, those with immense flexibility in their work or school life, or those lucky enough to get a day off during these events, the Micro Center raffle is an excellent choice for AIB cards, and the Best Buy drops could see you walking away with the Founders Editions card, if you're willing to travel and I guess more importantly, willing to deal with people. Some amazing, some not so much. So of course, there are many other ways to get a GPU at the moment. Stuff like the EVGAQ, Bstock, other retailers like Zotac, AMD Store, even Verified Actual Gamers. All of those are viable options. And I actually do have a bit of experience with most of them. Other than EVGA, I haven't really sunk a lot of time into that, but the rest mostly unsuccessful for me. This might be different if I was able to put time into them, but the fact that I've also been successful many times through the methods that we covered today should give you some indication of the others' probabilities. But I truly hope this video improves your chances of getting a GPU soon. As I mentioned before, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comment section, even from around the world. I keep a good track of stuff like this, especially in our monthly GPU crisis updates, which you should check out if you haven't already. Links to everything from stock trackers to products will be in the video description for you, and otherwise, get subscribed, double check your notification settings so that you don't miss future TechLens content. And remember guys, a like is always appreciated. Thank you for watching.